The term Global South has become an essential framework for understanding global inequalities and geopolitical dynamics. It has replaced older concepts such as the Third World to reflect contemporary socio-economic and political realities. In this chapter, we'll explore the definition of the Global South, its differences from the Third World, and how Latin American experiences have contributed to new understandings of global relations. The term Global South describes a wide range of nations and areas that have been politically and economically marginalized, exploited, and colonized in the past. When they hear this, many people think of poor or emerging countries in the Middle East, Latin America, Africa, and Asia, as Claudio pointed out in 2021. Maybe the term Global South is not merely a geographical designation. Instead, it is a symbolic representation of inequality between nations' economic and political power on a global scale. This inequality was shaped by colonialism, neoliberal economic policies, and global capitalism, which have all maintained disparities between nations. Connell, in 2007, argues that the Global South is also a site of alternative knowledge production, where critical perspectives on globalization and development emerge. The concept challenges the traditional dominance of Western-centric theories in economics, politics, and social sciences, and instead advocates for a more inclusive and decolonized approach to global studies. The terms Global South and Third World are sometimes used interchangeably, but they mean quite different things and have distinct histories. A concept known as the Third World was coined during the Cold War to characterize nations that did not identify with either the capitalist First World, headed by the United States, or the communist Second World, headed by the USSR. This classification emphasized political non-alignment rather than economic or social conditions, as Claudio noted in 2021. In contrast, the Global South rose to fame in the post-Cold War era due to worldwide economic inequality and globalization. When considering modern concerns like debt dependence, environmental justice, and economic exploitation by multinational financial institutions, the term Global South is more applicable than Third World, which was associated with a specific geopolitical era, according to Claudio in 2021. Moreover, as Connell pointed out in 2007, while the Third World concept implied a hierarchy with an end goal of development, the Global South focuses on alternative development models and self-determined progress. Latin American nations served as a key in challenging neoliberalism and seeking out new political and economic paradigms, which have helped to shape contemporary views of international relations. Latin American nations have frequently been at the front of those fighting global financial institutions such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund or IMF that have enforced structural adjustment programs which have, caused social upheaval and economic instability, as Claudio noted in 2021. So, let's talk about the critique of economic dependency. Latin American scholars like Raul Prebisch and Fernando Henrique Cardoso developed what we call dependency theory. Basically, this theory argues that the economic underdevelopment of the Global South is a direct result of historical exploitation by the Global North. This perspective really challenged those old modernization theories, which suggested that all nations follow the same linear path to development. Economic and political alliances have become, super important. Countries such as Brazil, Argentina, and Venezuela have worked to create regional economic alliances like Mercosur and ALBA, the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America. The idea here is to reduce dependency on northern economies and instead promote trade among southern nations. There's been a pretty strong opposition to neoliberal reforms, especially with the rise of leftist governments in Latin America. Leaders like Hugo Chavez in Venezuela and Evo Morales in Bolivia have shown us alternative governance models that actually prioritize social welfare over market-driven policies. These governments have nationalized key industries, invested in social programs, and they've rejected those IMF-imposed austerity measures. And now, we're seeing the emergence of alternative knowledge and development models. Latin American intellectuals and activists have made significant contributions to global conversations about inequality, environmental justice, and indigenous rights. Their perspectives really offer alternative frameworks for understanding development, emphasizing sustainability and cultural preservation, rather than just focusing on economic growth at any cost.